Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 37 of GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace. I know, we've been doing this like forever now, right?
I'd say it's almost been a year. Yeah.
It has been, yeah.
Right, like in April? Was it
Yeah,
April?
we did, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's crazy.
So, some things have changed, but we're still here, so that's good. So, all right, for those that are going to tune in here with us, and hopefully some people will be live with us soon, we will be talking about Doctor Who and kind of the what ifs, what kind of series we'd like to see. And so this all started because of an article with Russell T Davies, who used to be the showrunner for Doctor Who, and he made the
Torchwood and Sarah
he
Jane
did
Chronicle.
he did
He created a little mini universe that I loved.
Yep.
I watched all of them. I watched every episode of Sarah Jane, every episode of Torchwood. Of course, I have not seen this latest.
Right.
I've seen 12, but I haven't seen this latest season just because I don't have it, the ability to have it right now. But I'm getting ready to, so I will catch up. But I have seen every known episode of Doctor Who. When I say that, if you're a big Doctor Who fan, there are missing episodes that no one has seen or hasn't seen since they aired. And unfortunately, I didn't live in England when they aired, so I didn't get to.
Well, and some of those were pretty early on.
I was gonna
right.
say, like,
well, exactly, because you got to think it started in the middle 50s, so this was before either one of us were around.
I would say, like, this character is one of the longest running characters in TV, played by different people. That's the great thing about the Doctor. His character or her character or the character can go through these reincarnations, so you don't age out of that role. And sometimes, I love that they can bring a fresh face to it and bring a different aspect to it. I always talk about there are the defining characteristics of the Doctors, and you have, if you just go newer Doctors, this is Chris and up. That's where most people have found their feet with Doctor Who. And when somebody says, what Doctor should I start with? I always say start with Chris.
Yes.
If you haven't watched the older ones, they're corny, but I love them. I actually, my favorite Doctor is Matt Smith, just because I loved his character and I loved his companions. But I love all of the Doctors, and I have been a huge fan since the 80s. But all the Doctors have their own little personalities.
They do. And for those that don't know, and I need to get you just to put in the parentheses there, the A-spurt for me. But for those that don't know, that we named the show basically off of Doctor Who, a couple of the characters, because they ended up being our nicknames for Ace. And then we've got who Ace would call the Doctor Professor. So that became our running joke and became kind of the format for the show. So that's where this comes from. And
the blonde, and if it gets more blonde, I might cosplay as Ace.
You should cosplay Ace. I agree. That would be awesome. And that really wouldn't be that difficult. I mean,
no. Like it's normal clothes. That's the good thing about the Doctor. If you do cosplay, unless you're playing like one of the villains or one of the aliens, they're regular people in regular clothes.
Right.
They change their clothes. They don't stay in the same clothes all of the time. You have your bow ties and fezzes, and you have leather jacket with Chris. The tweed and the white tennis shoes with, or like the white tennis shoes with David. So you have certain looks, but they all can change a little bit.
They can.
Who's your favorite doctor?
My favorite doctor is Tennant.
See, the romantic doctor. I can see that. You like
I do. And he's, because he was also very much distracted and out there, very ADD, or very, for those of us that do the Myers-Briggs stuff, very ENFP, so which is so me. I related to him because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's me. If I was the doctor, this would be me.
See, and the thing is like, and that's why I try to explain to people, each doctor has a different personality. I say Chris is your lone wolf warrior doctor, alone for a long time, and then he brings in Rose, who brings in Mickey. So it's that he doesn't really know how to respond to having a human companion again, because he's been alone for so long.
Right.
So he is that, like, you like him, but I call him the warrior, like the protect. He still has that protection, that wall up.
He's got the, and didn't Captain Jack come along with the end of his season? So
the very end.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
got introduced to Jack Harkness,
yeah.
Who amazing. He's so.
But Barrowman's a great actor. He is a great actor. So
he's a great person. I know people who, I have not met him in person, but I know people who have, and they're like, he is funny and he is witty and he is just like, I'll just do anything.
Right. And
I love that.
I sat in on one of his panels, so I didn't get to meet him.
Yeah.
But I got to, because that was going to be lots of money that I didn't have. But I got to sit in on the panel, and he was exactly that way. He was just like, come ask me anything, and I will tell you, and we'll make it funny, and we'll have a good time with it. And he was great. So yeah.
My favorite doctor is Matt Smith.
Smith's right there for me. I mean, just right there.
I love Matt. Like, I knew I was gonna love Matt the first episode with the fish sticks and custard.
Yep.
He brought this youthful exuberance, but at the same time in this fun. Like, he says stuff that you just laugh at, but he's also, I think, out of all of the recent doctors, I think he is the most angry.
Yeah.
He brings such a depth to the doctor that he has this, like, humor, and it's like all fun until it's not.
Right. You don't mess around with him.
I love that they brought that back, especially after David Tennant's, like, being the doctor, and David brought this this humor and this spaciness and this compassion and romance. Like, everybody fell in love with David Tennant, just how it is, because he's David and he's beautiful and amazing. And Matt Smith came in and he was like, I'm not good looking, but I'm funny. And I loved his companions. So
yeah, I'm with you. He had great companions. And I love David's companions too. So I mean, so and we'll be talking about some of those tonight, because some of where we're kind of wanting to go probably involves around companions. At least some do.
I brought some things in that aren't companions.
You did, and actually I've got some there too. So yeah, all right.
So okay, let's start with, why don't we start with the ones that were already spinoffs? So there were 3 spinoffs of Doctor Who in recent, like the modern Who.
Right.
There was Torchwood.
Yep.
There was the Sarah Jane Chronicles, and there was Class.
Yes.
And that was the Clara story.
Right.
I watched Class. I did not. I know why it got canceled. It did not intrigue as much as I think they wanted it to.
Right.
It wanted to capitalize.
It didn't capture the attention and capture the characters weren't that where you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to know more. It just, it was a fine show. It just wasn't what you had hoped for a Doctor Who spinoff.
Well, and I think, and this is like, I have gotten arguments about this with people. Clara, I loved her at the beginning. Like, I loved the girl who shouldn't exist.
Right.
Clara, like the one who's in the different stories and they're Clara, but they're not. The
Right.
episode where she's inside a dialect.
Yes.
Beautiful episode.
Yeah.
I love that episode. But near the end, when Matt gets regenerated into Peter Capaldi, Doctor Who, I just didn't like her chemistry with him.
Right.
And I felt like she became the antagonist of what a Doctor Who companion should be, which is the hope of humanity.
Right.
And she had given up hope. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like that might be one of the reasons I didn't quite like it, because at that point I didn't quite like the character as much.
No. Well, my daughter actually didn't like Clara from the beginning. My daughter used to watch Doctor Who with me. She used to be a full-on geek girl before she became a cheerleader and trying to get rid of that, you know? Maybe she'll come back. But anyway, but she... And it went from, because she loved Amy Pond so much.
Amy and Rory are my favorite companions of all time because of them. Not because of how they interact with the Doctor, but because of how they interact with each other.
Right. No, how they interact with each other is amazing. I agree. Yeah. So
Rory is the most amazing character, that a male companion that they've ever written for Doctor Who. The male companions, and that's not counting Jack because he was not technically a companion.
Right.
The male companions tend to be write-offs. I know that's bad. I love Mickey, but they wrote Mickey as, this puppy dog.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in love with Rose, but she's in love with the Doctor, and I'll follow her anywhere. And yes, he gained some of his own self-respect and his own like moxie near the end of his run, but for so long he was just so yeah,
I agree.
But that brings me to one of my spinoffs that I'd like to see.
Well, let's talk about your spinoff you'd like to see.
Now, you said you put this on your list too, right? Or you had them on your list, or one of them on your list?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me which one you want.
So the very last episode of Doctor Who that Mickey was in, he was in with Martha.
Yes.
Now, Martha is probably the least popular Doctor Who companion of modern times. I love her. I think they tried to force another Rose situation.
Yeah,
the writing did. But I love the episode where, everybody is like trying to get the Doctor and get in touch with the Doctor. And she's like, she's a doctor now, and she's in the army, and she's a badass and all this stuff. Her and Mickey, in the last episode that they were in together, they had this montage of memories, and they get married, and they fight.
Yes, they do.
They fight aliens.
Yep.
That's a spinoff I would like to see.
No, I'm with you completely. I wrote the same thing down on my list when we decided this is what we were going to talk about. I went through and I'm like, you know what? This would be the coolest thing ever, because I think what she did after she left the Doctor made her even a better character. How she went to UNIT, and then she went to Torchwood, and then basically she got finished up her degree, and she starts making herself this amazing character that you're like, oh my gosh.
She grew more after.
Yeah, she did. She did.
I would love to see Mickey and Martha be joined once in a while by Captain Jack Hartnett.
That would be great. I agree.
I don't want him in there all the time. I want to see that marriage, and that.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about Amy and Rory, is that relationship that was outside of the Doctor and the aliens and everything.
Right.
And a core relationship. And I think it would be. I would love to see an Amy and Rory movie, but I don't want to see a series with it, because I feel like their story has been told, and I like where it ended.
Right.
But Martha and Mickey, they could totally do a series. And have Jack show up, and they can even have different, like they can have David come back, and they can have Matt come back, and they can have different doctors, because he travels through time and space.
Exactly.
So you could have all the doctors show up to help with this one or help with that one.
Right. Right.
And I think it would be a great show that had heart. So yeah.
No, I agree with that. And the whole idea that you can set that just about anywhere because they're fighting aliens. They could be on an alien planet. They could be on a space station. They could even be on Earth. Something with, something like Unit or a different version of Unit or whatever. I mean, you could create it in such a way to where you could develop their characters and their relationship while also having all this other stuff going on that they have to worry about, and then they find a way to deal with that and their relationship they're having through it. Right.
Their marriage. It gives you the best of everything. Like I said, that's the best part of Amy and Rory's
agreed.
Was that they had this relationship and this marriage and this baby and all of this. And it was just the story of this science fiction-y, fantasy, time-traveling world going on around their love story.
Right.
You could do that with Martha and Mickey, and I think it would be fabulous. So.
I agree. Well, and you bring even more redemption to a great character that people just kind of are blasé about, unfortunately. Because Martha,
both of them.
No, I agree. Yeah, you're right. Both of them are that way. Yeah, agreed.
They just wrote him. I don't like the way they write the male companions for the Doctor, up until Jodie's, because she has male and female companions.
Right.
Up until that point, the male companions are always, even Rory, started off like this, where he's just following a girl who's following the Doctor.
Right.
He didn't end that way. Rory got some gumption and got some.
He did. I mean, he became a centurion for 1,000 years.
The 1,000-year-old, the oldest centurion.
You're right.
Watched the Pandora, the box for like 1,000 years to protect the woman he loves.
Right.
That is the most romantic thing.
Agreed.
And the most badass thing. I mean, he goes from being this nurse. He's also a nurse, so he's nurturing and stuff. Being this nurse who, is just totally in love with Amy Pond.
Right.
And follows her everywhere, to someone who stands up to her, stands up to the Doctor, and stands up to history.
Right.
Like, just up. I love it. I think we could do that with Mickey.
I agree with that. I think that would be a great redemption factor for both great characters. So let me. We also talked about, and we were talking a little bit in the pre-show about this. Another character that we both had on our list is the Doctor's daughter, Jenny.
And by David Tennant's wife in real life.
David Tennant's wife in real life, yes. Well, and where is her picture? What did I do with that? Okay, I probably need to go pull it up. But I'll get that pulled up here in just a moment. I must have.
That episode was really good. I liked that episode. It wasn't my favorite.
Me too.
But the ending of it opened it up, and I thought they were going to do a spinoff right then and there. And
yes.
It didn't. And it's been, it was 2008. There she is.
Right.
2008. Yeah. Now they're really married in real life, have kids. It's Georgia is gorgeous. That's how he met her.
She is. Yeah.
She still looks gorgeous. We were talking. You said that you think she could play the role. I think they could. She could, but she could also get recast as just she could be regenerate. She could regenerate. We don't know.
That's true, and that's true because at the end she basically comes back to life. Like, oh, look at regeneration.
She regenerates the way David regenerates when he says
yes,
he leave and he gets to stay in that body.
Right.
So she regenerates like that, but doesn't mean that she's always going to do that.
No, that's true. That's very true.
So they could totally recast that role and pick up the minute she leaves, or they could pick up 10 years from then, because it was 2006, I think, that episode. 2008. Gosh.
Yeah, I don't remember, but it's around that time.
I don't remember.
Mid 2000s.
Yeah. But she basically is a clone of the Doctor with DNA spliced a little different. That's why she's a female. And she is bred on this planet where they're just breeding soldiers. So she's a soldier. So she's like a war doctor.
Right.
What I think the war doctor, because we hadn't heard about the war doctor very much.
Right.
At that point, what mentally he was, even though we know now that that's not true. But she has military background.
Right.
She has survival background. She's a Time Lord. And she literally leaves the planet she was on and takes off to go do her father's work.
Right. She does. In a rocket. Yep.
In a rocket. I know it's not a TARDIS, so she can't go back in time. Yet doesn't mean she doesn't find a way.
Right. Nor does it mean that she doesn't find a TARDIS somewhere.
Well, she doesn't even have to find a TARDIS. River Song.
That's true.
Time and space with the bracelet.
It's true. And Captain Jack with his device. Yep. I know.
Same device. So, and she's smart enough. She could have figured out how to do that.
Yep.
I think I really wanted it to happen back then. I would not
be
happy if it happened now.
I wanted it so badly to happen then. I'm with you.
And I think that I know a lot of people don't like Jodie as the Doctor because Jodie's a girl, which is just ridiculous. Let me throw that out there. It's ridiculous because the Doctor is never been specified as a sex. Time Lords don't get specific sexes. And people loved Missy as the Master.
Right.
They didn't like Jodie as the Doctor because they were like, I think
if it should be the same. And that's also why I didn't have any problems with him having the daughter from his genes because you don't know. I mean, come on. The
Time Lords don't have specific genders. They're an essence that travel and they get regenerated into whatever it is.
Right.
Something I didn't put on my list that I didn't tell you, but I would love to see, I know Missy, we've seen the demise of Missy, but in between all of the things, she traveled through time and space. Missy, like that Michelle Gomez as Missy, that would be a great show because it would be, she's not good. Right. She's not evil.
Which is a little different than how the Master used to be portrayed. I mean, there was always this camaraderie, but also the Master was always bad. And she's bad, but she's not always 100% bad.
I'm going to disagree with you. Not always. There is the episode where the Master doesn't realize he's the Master and he's just working.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
So he has lost his memory and then he starts gaining his memory back. And he has people who love him and stuff. And then he turns back into the Master.
Right.
The thing with the Master is I always felt like the Master was what would happen to the Doctor if the Doctor didn't find humans.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
So Missy's found humans. So she has some compassion.
To play with.
Me, I love a good villain. And Michelle Gomez as Missy was look at her. She just is perfection as Missy.
Is. In this episode here where she's leading the Cybermen is just amazing. So yeah.
So that would be awesome. Can you imagine all the trouble she'd get into?
Yeah. I mean,
you could bring in doctors. You could bring in Peter. I know Peter worked with her the most.
Right.
You could bring in Matt once in a while. You could bring in David once in a while. I don't think Chris is ever going to reprise the role again.
Probably not.
I've heard rumors that he's never going to. But David has said he would be willing to.
Right.
And Matt said he would be willing to. And Peter has not denied that he would be willing to either. So.
Right. Well, there was speculation of a possible dual Doctor miniseries with Matt and David. So that would be really cool. But
there were several episodes where those two in particular actually met.
Crossover, right.
And not just I love the one with all the doctors and you see them all we're standing by, the war one. I love that one with the war doctor. But there are actually a couple actual episodes where David came in during Matt Smith's reign as the Doctor. So, no, it totally would work. Plus, I like the two chemistries. They have like a good chemistry.
They do.
Peter would be fabulous in there too, because I loved that he's my psychological doctor. That's what I call them. I have names for them.
There you go.
They're warrior doctor, the romantic doctor, the fun, angry doctor, your psychological doctor. And
see, I always thought Matt was he was youthful, but down deep, he's the old man on the inside.
He is.
He's the grumpy angry. Old man on the inside. And then you get
angry.
Yeah, and then you got Peter, who's the old man, but he's youthful on the inside.
Well, but Peter was, when they brought Peter in, and the first couple episodes, it is very much why I call him the psychological doctors, because a lot of his episodes really did not deal with outside forces as much as some of the other ones, and they didn't deal with companion. I know he had Clara because he inherited Clara from Matt Smith, right? But it didn't, and then he got Bill. But even with Bill, they were a side character to what was psychologically going on in his head.
Right.
Like we were talking about, one of my favorite episodes with him is where he's having flashbacks of like the monster under the bed.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And like being a child. I would love that spinoff. I would love to see the Doctor on Gallifrey as a child growing up. What made him run away? We know what made him run away. We've been told what made him run away, but psychologically, what drove him to that point? Right.
Because that's not just a one-time thing. That's right. So that's something that goes on for a while before he decides to go to get his TARDIS and go kind of do his own thing.
If you go by the Doctor's wife episode where the TARDIS gets turned into human form, which is in my top 5 episodes of all time. I love.
It's a great episode.
That episode. He didn't pick the TARDIS. The TARDIS picked him.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Why did the TARDIS pick him? She says little parts of it. She says like why she picked him, but what made the TARDIS pick this young man running away from his responsibilities, running away from his life? Psychologically, the TARDIS could manipulate him and teach him and train him and mold him into what she wanted him to become. And so I think that would be a great story. Him before he meets the TARDIS, when the TARDIS chooses him, and the very first kind of journeys that he goes on with the TARDIS, because our first Doctor, the very first Doctor, William, he's an old man at that point.
Right, he is.
But he has a daughter, he has a granddaughter. Like he's an old man. He's been in the TARDIS for years.
Right.
When we first meet him. And this is like 1950s. You know, this is a long time ago. I want to know his story beforehand.
Right. So, no, that would be great. Yeah. And you could do other people around and stuff going on with Gallifrey. Talk. Yeah.
All Time Lords.
Right.
Just imagine like the sci-fi capabilities that we have now. And the storytelling that the Doctor has done over the years of just Gallifrey, the stories of Gallifrey itself. We see Time Lords. We see the Master. We know there are evil Time Lords. There are good Time Lords. We know that they keep time and space intact, so there's no cracks in the fabric of it. That's their whole purpose. But you know, throughout history that there have been other masters. Right.
Well, and you even see some of that. I forget which Doctor it was that went on trial. One in the old series. But that's a great little section of that whole trial, because you get to learn these Time Lords are very much human-like in the fact that each one of them is very flawed, but also has some redeeming quality. So it's an interesting thing when if you guys get a chance, if you're not used to seeing the originals, check some of them out, and there's some really cool stuff out there.
There's some great episodes. And yes, you've got to take it for what it is. It was made in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. So you see the progression of costumes and like the ability to do special effects and all of that. It was you got to think when it first came out, it was a low budget sci-fi TV show.
And they had to go back in time so many episodes because they were supposed to teach history, because it was an educational thing for BBC that you would have to have a way to teach history in it. So
it literally was like where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, but where in time is the Doctor?
Right, exactly.
That's why he had a daughter and a granddaughter, and his granddaughter would learn about the cultures and stuff, and that's the basically the beginning and the heart of Doctor Who. Was about this thing, and then it became so much more. So
well, and I always thought a story about the granddaughter and her adventures when she left would be a really interesting story. I don't know if you can really do that right now, because not that many people really have the history of the granddaughter, know who she is. But
people don't realize that the Doctor was married. The Doctor had a daughter. The Doctor had a granddaughter. People don't realize, like, half of the companions throughout the Doctor. Ace was beautiful and amazing, but very short-lived companion. He had so many companions throughout all of the time, and so many great adventures. That you could do spin-offs. I would love to see, a 70s style spin-off with the Doctor.
Well, that would be interesting.
And just totally 70s it out. And because you can't beat Tom Baker with the he's my second favorite Doctor. I don't know. Peter might be my second favorite Doctor, but
really, all right.
I love the psychological. Plus, I love Peter brought his own personality to it.
Yeah,
the guitar playing. Peter is a famous guitar player.
So, I didn't like his character at first, and it kind of grows on you. It's kind of crusty at first, and he's trying to figure out who he is, and some of the episodes weren't greatly written.
So, but they were, and I will argue this with anyone. At the point where Peter becomes the Doctor, like when that reincarnation happens, like that regeneration happens. Matt Smith's character, the Doctor, is in a very weird mind space.
Sure.
When it happens.
Right.
Whereas like David Tennant, he knew it was happening. He didn't want it to happen, but he was accepting that it was happening. And then
eventually he was.
Yeah. Like he tried to make it not happen. He didn't want to go.
Right.
But but Matt happened so quickly.
Right.
He didn't have that that moment of, and Chris had that moment, and David had that moment. And I think that the way they wrote Peter's version of the Doctor reflected that he didn't have that moment.
Sure.
Also, he didn't get to say goodbye to two of the most important people in his regeneration, being Amy and Rory, because they're stuck in the past.
Right.
Which is weird, but he can't. There's actually a storyline where he cannot go back
to
visit them.
Oh yeah. I know.
So I feel like, and Clara was a project for him. I never got the chemistry as much with Clara and Matt. And then Peter comes in and he's confused about who he is.
Right.
And he is delving into, I think, the anger that dates back all the way to Chris's rendition of the Doctor, and all of the things that have gone on since then, I think are festering to the surface when Peter becomes the Doctor.
Right.
And I think that it's a lot of self-reflection, and I don't think it's as interesting of a read or watch as most people. But if you think of it as everybody takes those, you have in your lifetime weeks, months, years where you reflect upon yourself and you try to better yourself.
Right.
And if you go back and watch Peter's first couple episodes, you see that human side of that, like that reflection of like growth and stuff. So,
all right,
go back and watch it.
Well, I've watched it recently, actually, and I thought so yeah, because I'm going back through Peter's run. So, and to kind of build me up to get to the 13th Doctor, because I just, because of not having BBC America and stuff, I haven't been able to watch a lot of it. So I'm like, okay, now that I've got HBO Max, I'm starting to watch it, trying to build myself up. I'm like, where, remind me what happened here. And so that's basically what I'm doing. So,
Yeah.
But yes. So, but I don't know. I thought his character grew. And actually, if you look at the older Doctors, when you look at the classic Doctors, a lot of them have a couple of episodes when they first regenerate that they're confused. They don't know what's going on with their clothes. They go and switch outfits to something crazy. And then it takes them a while to kind of figure things out. So,
yeah. And with David, they didn't really do that much.
Right.
And with Matt, they did a little bit. Like, he was like, bow ties are cool, fezzes are cool. He's
right.
His style, but at the same time, it's not a psychological thing. He literally, I feel like Matt Smith's version of the Doctor was like, okay, I don't know who I am. Well, let's just try everything.
Right.
Let's figure out.
Right.
He's like a little kid trying
Yes.
everything. And Peter isn't quite like that, because I feel like Peter, he doesn't know who he is, but at the same time, he has all these emotions that are just there, and he doesn't know why. And instead of burying him like Matt Smith's character would, let's face it, he buried it until it came out.
A good man goes to war.
A good man goes to war. That episode's so beautiful. Speaking of that episode, another spinoff I'd like to see, River Song.
Talking about River Song, most definitely.
Beautiful. She's amazing.
She is, and to know that there's all this time to where they were kind of going in reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, she dies when you first meet her in Doctor Who, and then she's kind of going in reverse.
The weirdest thing is, because I remembered that she played, the astronaut who died, and then I saw her, when she becomes River, or when you first get introduced as River,
right?
And it took me a minute, and I was like, are they using Alex as two different people? And it took me a little bit to realize that it's the same character. And then I think it's her third episode that she's in. She's like, where are you? And she's like making notes of where he is in time. Because
right.
He meets her. The first time you see her is her death.
Right.
She dies. She gets... her mind gets put into the library.
So, but I've got a question with that, though.
Okay.
Because she was conceived on the TARDIS.
I know.
Because of that, is it possible that maybe she could regenerate? And we think her mind gets put there, but she could also regenerate. And I don't know. It was just my thought that I always wondered if.
No, she can regenerate. If you remember, the episode with the baby.
Yes.
When Amy has her.
Yes.
She goes, and then she's the little girl in the
house,
and she regenerates.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. See, so I'm like, maybe she's not really dead, but even if she was dead, even if we say, okay, that's the official, she's fully dead, but I think we could find a way around that, a loophole. But even if you say that, she's got all this time traveling that she does, before she dies. You could tell those stories when she's not with the doctor.
She shows up in pivotal points of the doctor's history that she knows because he's told her the stories of the pivotal parts in the future of it. She goes back and she changes them to help him.
Right.
That's why you meet her at the end, and then it goes to like their first meeting, and you've got to think she's in prison for years for killing the doctor, and he comes to visit her, and they fall in love.
Right.
And this isn't a Rose and the doctor love. I know a lot of people are going to get mad at me about this. Don't get mad.
You know I love Rose. You know I love Rose.
I love Rose, and I love that Rose got the clone that she got. I love that she got a part of the doctor who's not immortal and who can grow old with her. I would never want that for River. River deserves all of the doctor, and she is the best match for a love interest of the doctor that was ever written. She challenges him.
Right.
She put up with this crap because the doctor can be an arrogant ass.
Really?
I would have loved to have seen her play off against David's doctor. That was really interesting. And that's the thing is like she only played in that one episode with David.
Right.
The death episode. So, but that is the first, they canonized that. That is the first time that she was in time with the doctor.
Right.
In the doctor's timeline.
Right. Exactly.
But she could. The library, we don't know what the library is. It's very
That's true.
How it's left is her mind and her consciousness are put in stasis in the library, part of a giant collective collection of knowledge and memories and lifetimes and stuff. And she lives there.
Right.
After she physically dies. We don't know if they can like insert her into someone else. I would never want to see anybody else play River Song.
No, I agree.
But
I don't want to go. I want to be me again.
Right. It's perfect. But no, River Song, she traveled through different times too.
Yeah, right. You could definitely tell those stories. I don't think that's not a hard pull. I mean, you can do that even if you don't. Even if you say this is where she dies, we can tell all the stories that happened before that, and talk more about the prison stuff. I was always fascinated with the prison stuff. Oh my gosh!
Prison, but she can escape anytime she wants to go anywhere she wants as long as she comes back. And before she can be gone for a week and then come back. Like it's beautiful. It's the idea that she allows herself to be in prison for killing the man she loves, her husband. Right. Before he was her husband, even though he's not actually dead.
Right.
That story is just mind-boggling, and they could do so much. And Alex Kensington could do so much. She's an archaeologist. She loves history. She goes back in time. There's the one episode where she wants to kill Hitler.
Right. That's a great episode, by the way. I love that.
Also, the doctor can't go back and visit Amy and Rory. They never say River can't. Right. River could go back to visit her parents.
Well, and maybe she has. That would be the interesting thing. Yeah.
And so there's that.
As long as you don't look at don't look at the weeping angels when you go back.
The weeping angels. I love the weeping angels. They're
Me
amazing.
too.
The Statue of Liberty as the weeping angel was hilarious. I was like, they're in New York. I was like, they're gonna make the Statue of Liberty.
It's still better than Ghostbusters 2 using it the way they did. So, and I love Ghostbusters 2, but that part was just too much. Anyway, so let's talk about some other people that we could see in a spin-off series here. Because we've spent a lot of time talking there.
We've talked about a couple of them.
We did. So, and that's fine. We don't have to get through all of them. So I want to throw out, let's throw these guys out here. Right here.
Yes.
So, what's her name here?
Jenny.
There you go. Vestra, Jenny, and Strax. Yeah. So these guys, those episodes are the best.
Well, and you got to think about it like we were talking about the Mickey and Martha.
Yeah.
This is a romantic couple.
Right.
Jenny and Madame Vestra are married.
Right.
You think at first she's her maid, but they are married. They are
right.
What's great about this is they could go Sherlock Holmes on this all day long.
Right.
Victorian. There's a whole episode where Jack the Ripper, why he disappeared is because Lady Vestra killed him.
Yeah. Yeah, killed him and then ate him.
I know. It's beautiful. But Jenny is very much like, the Watson to the Holmes. Like
right. She is.
And then you have Strax, who's just like there, but he's the humor.
Yeah, and like the muscle.
He is. He's like the little lady landlord on Sherlock.
Oh, yes.
But he's the muscle, but he's also, he has to protect and he has to be the nurse. Like
nurse, right.
Yeah.
That's true.
That could be a total series. Like that's
I agree. You definitely can make that into a full-time series. And I would watch every episode because it would just be intriguing. I'd be like, I love the late 1800s anyway. And especially start talking Victorian England, and then you throw in these great characters. All three of them are awesome. I'd so watch it.
The thing about it is, Madame Vestra, she walks through London. She's a on, but she walks through London every day.
Right.
So, she is a part of the fabric of that society, in high society.
Yes, it is.
And so there's nothing, like the only thing that's secretive about her other than her actual face is that she's married to Jenny. They keep that kind of under wraps. That's why Jenny is her assistant.
Right, right.
But that could also be an amazing, especially this day and age, like a lesbian couple in the 1800s. One's an alien, one's not, and they're detectives. Think about that. That's just mind-boggling. Think about it. Like they would have to keep it such a secret.
Right. And the fact that you're married to an alien isn't crazy enough, but then she's your gender. So there you go. That's what the real problem is that
in 1800s England, probably
instead of an alien. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. It's an interesting thing, but it would be a fun series to do. And you're right. You could show especially the aristocrats at the time, how they're interacting and like what's going on. And
it would be a mix between like a film noir and like a Bridgerton.
Yes.
Bridgerton film noir meets sci-fi.
Yeah.
Sherlock
I'm in.
There.
You had me at noir.
I know. Because Jenny is very much her girl Friday.
Right. Yeah, she is. Yeah.
She is very smart and she deducts and she gets clues and she does the footwork, a lot of the footwork, because Madame Vestra can't come out like a lot. She has to wear the veil. But no, it could be very interesting. And then coming home, you see it like in some episodes, you see like the banter between them, that marriage banter where Jenny's like,
right.
Think you're the boss, you're not the boss. I know you think you're the boss.
Right. You try to pretend like I'm the maid, whatever here.
It would be very interesting. I would watch that all day.
I would still watch it. Yeah. I'm in for that. So all right.
Let's see here. Speaking of, let's see who we're going to talk about. Oh, okay. Speaking of people who were in episodes but weren't companions, these are four of like, I love these episodes. And they're the ones with Maisie Williams in it.
Yes.
As a Shildra or me or the Nightmare, like she goes by different names.
Yeah.
Her first episode was The Girl Who Died.
Right.
And then The Woman Who Lived. She was in Face the Raven. She was mentioned in Heaven Sent, and then she was in Hellbent.
Yep.
If you guys don't know this storyline, basically she's a Viking girl who, with Peter's the doctor, she dies saving her village with some technology, and she's a storyteller, puppet master, kind of puppeteer, and she creates a big mechanical thing to scare away the people who are going to attack her village. She dies doing this because it takes her heart power to run this thing. Clara gets the doctor to save her life.
Right.
And in order to do it, he gives her this technology that's part of the technology she used and puts it in her, but it makes her immortal.
Right.
That's a problem. The doctor realizes it's a problem, but he likes her so much and he thinks she's such a great kid that he has to save this girl who died.
Right.
He saves her and she becomes the woman who lived forever. Like, to the last episode she's in is the end of time as they know it. Like, it's not, it's the doctor, so it's
right.
all relative. But she's at the end of time talking to the doctor. She goes through her lifetimes, and because she's still got a human brain, she can't hold all of that, so she writes all of these stories down. And she stores them in a library, and she does everything. You see her the next time, she's a criminal. And she's not nice at all. And then in Face the Raven, she is trying to redeem herself. She's taking in like people who need help and stuff. And this is in, like the Charles Dickens time of England. And she's taking people in, and she still has that like hatred for the doctor because he made her this. He created her, and she never asked for it.
Right.
And then she runs off with Clara. You could do it with Clara. I don't think it's necessary to do it with Clara. She steals a TARDIS.
Right.
At her last episode.
Yep. Sure does.
Steal a TARDIS. Now, Clara says, I'm going to go back and face my death and all of this stuff. It never shows her doing that.
Right.
But she steals a TARDIS.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you had Clara go away and face her death, you don't have to have her in it. You now have Maisie Williams as not a doctor. She's not a doctor. She is a human who is immortal. So she's like Jack, but she has anger management issues and stuff. So she could be very much like a Missy character.
Right. Right.
Good or bad, you don't know what you're going to get. She will never regenerate. You would not have to, and she'll age a little bit, not a lot.
Right.
A little bit, but that could be very interesting. It would be not a long series, but it could be like 2 or 3 seasons would be amazing.
Sure.
So.
Most definitely. Well, talking about somebody that could have a TARDIS, somebody who currently doesn't, but but an idea I've got.
Okay.
So I want to bring back the firecracker of a companion in Donna Noble.
Love Donna Noble.
Yeah, I want to have a season. So here's my idea. Have a season basically with her husband, but also spending so much time with her grandfather.
Right.
And she's having flashbacks to things that she was forcibly had her memories removed to save her.
A couple times.
Right. So my thought is you start having those memories take her over, because basically she became very much a doctor.
Well, Donna Doctor.
Exactly. Donna Doctor. Exactly. And then at the end of the first season, you have it fully take over, and it's driving her crazy, and it could destroy the world. And that's when you have the doctor show up, and then you can have it basically from there, take her to Gallifrey, do all the stuff, but eventually make her a full-on doctor with her own TARDIS. I think you could find a way to work that out. I don't know, but that was my thought, is like for the first season, you could have everything built on Earth. And I love her grandfather. You got to keep her grandfather. He is amazing. So that would be what I would want.
Because he remembers.
He does, but he's burdened with not telling her, even though he knows how important this would be to her. This would be so key to her to know this.
The reason she has her memories wiped is because she melds with the doctor.
Yeah, right.
Basically. Like it's a whole thing. It's like a long thing up to it. But she melds with the doctor. She becomes Dr. Donna.
Right. And basically is the one who saves everything. Time, space, the universe as we know it.
Without her, David Tennant wouldn't have been able to save it. Like he could.
Right. Exactly.
And but because she now has all this knowledge, she basically has all the doctor's knowledge.
Right.
From all his lifetimes and all of space, and it's in her brain. And it's the same thing with Maisie. The story is your human brains are not built to hold that much information. That's why we forget things, because we're replacing them with new things.
Right. And that was part of what made me think, I thought of this about Donna, and you brought up Maisie, and I'm like, it's a very similar story. You could do similar things with it, but I've always wanted to see kind of Donna return and not only know everything, but have all this knowledge of the doctor and be able to harness it eventually.
Well, and Donna's character, unlike Martha and Rose, was not in love with the doctor.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And I love that about her. I did.
A couple. No.
She's like, no. Interested at all.
Yeah. Her feistiness with him. They played so well together.
They were like siblings.
Yes. Very much so.
Fought like siblings. And when they made her Dr. Donna, it fit the way the story was written beforehand. Because it made her part of him and the family. So they always had this familial connection.
Yes.
And even her grandfather has this connection with the doctor. And her mother has this connection. She doesn't want it.
Right.
But she has it.
Right.
And, no, it's just brilliant. I love Donna's character. I would love to see like Donna Noble come back. I would. I don't know how it would work exactly. Like you said, I don't know how that would work. I wouldn't even mind it if she came back if she didn't have her own series, but they could play it off with the Martha and Mickey and Donna show up.
Yeah.
Because Donna has the knowledge of the doctor. So you could actually do it without the doctor.
Right. It's true.
No, I love that.
So
a series I don't really care to see, and I know everybody is like, I've mentioned it. I don't care. Like, Rose got her ending. So I don't think we need to go into Rose and the clone. I feel like they lived their happy life together and love and stuff like that. I know a lot of people, when we talk about spinoffs for the doctor, that's like their number one. They're like, we want to see Rose and the doctor. And I'm just like, she literally, out of all the doctor's companions, all of them, Rose got the fans ending.
Yeah.
None of the other companions got the fans ending. Like, I feel like they really, because she was the first companion in the reboot of it. And I feel like they pushed that so much that they were in love, that they needed to give the fans what they wanted, which was Rose and the doctor together forever.
Until they die.
Yeah. I actually disliked it because I've been a fan of Doctor Who since like the early 80s. So before David Tennant and Rose and all that.
Right.
And I felt like it did a disservice to a lot of the other companions because most of his companions pass away or get their memories wiped, or they don't have happy endings. Right.
And or they decide that he's not really the kind of guy that they need to be hanging out with, and they end it. They just leave.
Because he's dangerous and he's not. The doctor's not always a good guy.
Right.
And that's the problem I had with the Rose situation. It was a very toxic relationship in a way, because the doctor's not. he loves her, but he loves her in the way the doctor loves and not the way humans love. And I'm okay with how it ended. I don't need to see any more of that story. And I know a lot of people are going to hate on me for that.
Well, no, I understand that. In fact, I love, right, I love Rose. I love that storyline. Bad Wolf, that whole thing with Bad Wolf is just amazing. So I'm a big fan of Rose.
Right.
But I do think that was the ending. She got her ending, and so we don't.
She
I
got
don't.
the perfect happy ending.
Now, other than he doesn't say what he's trying to say because he runs out of time, and that's.
Right.
But
she got her mother.
She did.
Got her father.
Yep.
She got her doctor.
Right.
Mickey on that existence is still her friend.
Right.
Friend
zone.
He doesn't get a Martha on that
he doesn't
existence. Mickey doesn't get a happy ending, but Martha isn't there, so that's why he doesn't get his happy ending.
Right.
But Rose out of all the Doctor's companions, I feel like got the happiest ending of all. Like,
right.
Me and Rory got each other, yes, but they can never see the Doctor, and both of them loved him.
Well, and they're stuck where they were at with the Weeping Angels and all that. I mean, they're kind of stuck.
They're stuck in the 40s.
Yeah.
Not a bad place to be stuck, but it's still, they're stuck.
Especially if you're watching movies.
Right. Let's see, who else do we have on here? Oh, so let's see here. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes.
That's all right.
Speaking of Doctor's Companions, there was a spinoff called the Sarah Jane Chronicles. There's the Sarah Jane. Yeah, Sarah Jane was amazing, and
she was.
What I loved about Sarah Jane is she had Mr. Smith, who was her computer, and then she had K9. So anyone who is familiar with the older Doctors, the Doctor had a robot dog named K9. Sarah Jane is his guardian.
Right.
Sarah Jane adopts a son named Luke. She's raising him. He's the one in the blue shirt. And he is, not a normal kid.
Imagine that.
But in the last season of the Sarah Jane, she adopts a little girl named Scott.
Right. Yep.
Sarah Jane, the actress who played Sarah Jane, she passed away. Sarah Jane is they have to decide whether to save, everyone or save Sarah, and Sarah tells them to save everyone. Like, why would you not?
Right.
And at the beginning of that, Luke comes back from college and meets Sky for the first time because they're both adopted, and she's got his room and he does not like that. And at the end of it, he hangs a painting that says Sky's room in the room because now he's responsible for her. And Mr. Smith is still there and K9 is still there. And it's Luke and Sky without Sarah Jane, but you hear Sarah Jane's voice. What's great about that is Mr. Smith has all of that history of Sarah Jane.
Right.
So you can literally play the actress's voice saying things from the show or shows, and it's her voice, and she could be mentoring her kids.
Right.
Because he can create thoughts based on history and psychology of Sarah Jane to help her children. I would love to see them. They battled aliens.
Yes, they did.
Their kids battled aliens, and they're brilliant kids battling aliens. And they have a super intelligent computer named Mr. Smith who can get into any other computer anywhere, and he can also send messages to the Doctor.
Right.
And you have K9 who can also send messages to the Doctor and who can communicate. So he's like a mini computer that can go with them. I think that it would have to be placed on Earth.
Right.
But that the story could be amazing. I actually would like to see Luke and Sky move to America. and be in America, or I don't know if they're in America when the show takes place.
I thought it was London.
I think it was, but I want to see them in America.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see, because we have a little taste of the Doctor in America with the Doctor, but that was pretty much it. I want to see
the movie. He was in America. Yeah.
And then
so the eighth Doctor, right?
Doctor in America.
Yeah, eighth Doctor.
And before before
the
but in the modern Doctors, in the what I call modern Doctors, Matt Smith is the only one who's come to America.
It's true.
He went to the Wild West and all of that.
Because
I really want to.
Stetsons are cool.
Oh yeah. I want to see them build on that and have them be, young adults over here now. What's going on in our country now, with aliens and K9 and Mr. Smith, and still have communications with the Doctor. You can have the Doctor pop in. It could be any of the Doctors, like again said. But I think it could be really cool. It could be like Young Avengers type Torchwood.
Yeah. Well, it kind of was that with the Sarah Jane Chronicles. I mean, definitely more geared towards kids, but still really well written. Where Torchwood was definitely geared towards adults,
way older. But I always think if you had Luke and Skye driving the Force, basically, because they know all this stuff, and their mother was Sarah Jane, who was a companion to the Doctor, and they have all this Gallifrey technology and intelligence and stuff. They could build a team, and this would be a great spin-off for kids.
Right.
With the Doctor Who universe, you have your Avengers and your Young Avengers, you have your Teen Titans and stuff. This would be like the Doctor Who version of that.
That's true.
You could have these kids fighting just like Torchwood did.
I could see Martha showing up on it also.
Martha could show up on it because she knew Sarah Jane.
Right.
You could have, Donna Noble could show up on it. All of them could show up on it.
Right.
Except for Rose, because Rose isn't a parallel.
It's true.
But they're both very smart, unusual children.
Right.
They found more unusual children.
Right.
He carried on his mother. Right. They could totally do that, and it could be a very cool show.
It's American Unit meets Goonies.
Yeah. With K9.
With K9, right? I know, right? Yeah.
The star of the show.
Of course. K9's always awesome. So.
He's so awesome.
So I want to talk about another companion that I think should get a show.
Okay.
And let me tell you why. Because this companion was absolutely amazing.
Okay.
She had lots of gumption, which I like in a companion. And at one point, she even had her own TARDIS. And that would be Ace.
I knew he was going to go there.
Oh, you knew it. You knew it. Yeah. No, I think she would make a great show. You could actually bring her back to where she's somebody who's had her memory wiped. But she actually did study on Gallifrey. She became a Time Lord, had her own TARDIS.
Yep.
And you could go back there. And on Earth, she's got has her own thing to help kids with that are orphans, because she was an orphan. Charitable Earth is what she's got now. But if you could make that to where, again, it'd be something where her memory starts coming back, but my gosh, you get her a TARDIS now, and that would be so cool, because she'd be she's a lot older, so she's more mature, but she still has all those skills. She knows still how to blow everything up.
Okay, so for a second, I'm just going to throw this out there, and if anyone's watching or anything, I pitched it first. Okay, so what if you took my last idea and your idea, and you combined them, because she works with orphans. And Sarah Jane Smith's kids, Luke and Skye, are now orphans.
Yes, that's true.
So it would not be beyond the realm of possibilities that Ace would, because of Mr. Smith could make something happen. He knows all of this stuff.
Right.
So he can make something happen to where she helps take care of these kids, and then she helps do that. And no, that would be awesome, because then she would be the mentor, the older mentor to these younger kids who don't quite understand their powers or the whole realm of the universe. And it would also bring back her memories and everything. And you have, with Canine, you have the technology of Gallifrey.
Right.
Smith has the technology of Gallifrey in his mainframe. So she could technically build a TARDIS.
That would be awesome. Wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah. And then have them travel. And so then you have the symmetry that she was the very young companion to the Doctor.
Yeah.
And now she becomes like the Doctor, and she's got these young orphan companions. I mean, it would be a really cool symmetry.
Whose mother, adopted mother, mother was a companion to the Doctor.
Right. Before she was, yes. So, yeah.
I would watch that all the time.
I'm telling you, isn't that awesome? Because
kids would love that too.
Yes.
Because you could technically take this. She has a charity now that works with orphans, which means she's probably in that teacher realm.
Right.
You could literally take that story with Ace and the Sarah Jane's children,
and
create what the Doctor originated as, which was a kid's show to teach history.
Right. Exactly.
You wouldn't have to have them change history.
Right.
You have them go through history.
Right.
And learn about history, and of course fight the aliens, because you can't have Doctor Who show without aliens.
Right, exactly. Well, these aliens aren't supposed to be there, so they're messing up history. So we fight the aliens to reset history where it's supposed to be. Yes. Which is what a Time Lord is supposed to do.
That's their whole purpose.
Right. So I knew she started the charity. I knew some of the stuff, and I got looking at her because I'm like, oh my gosh, she would make a perfect spinoff after all these years. That would be such a cool show. But if you add in Sarah Jane's kids, that would just, you kind of really feed into it. Yeah.
They're the orphans. And
yeah,
technically she is teaching the next generation about the truth, which is what Torchwood was about too, but in a very adult way.
Yes.
You could make the show campy like Sarah Jane's was. Sarah Jane's was very campy, guys. I'm not even gonna lie. It's very campy, very I never had a problem with it being on when my kids were little, or little kids were around. But you could totally make it a Doctor Who like educational type show for children with Ace and the Sarah Jane children. It would be beautiful.
It would be. And then you could point at the screen. Look, it's me. It's me.
You know somebody's gonna come up with this idea, and I'm gonna be like, I keep.
We talked about it here. We go back to the show. It's gonna be archived. We get a cut of the money. That's all I'm saying. Even if it's British pounds, I don't care.
Pounds are worth more.
See, there you go. I've got lots of pounds, I can tell you that. So, all right. So there's another one I wanted to, and this would not be an ongoing series, but this would maybe, like a 2-hour movie, or weave this into one of these other series.
Right.
But I want to see what happened to these guys.
Oh my God. The baby.
You can call him. I forgot even what he was called, but yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love James Corden, and that would be so fun.
Well, and his storyline was really cool.
Yes, it was.
Really cool. It was enough of an interest that it could be an interesting show, like when it starts off.
Yes.
And the Doctor's like, it's a weird start off for a show.
Yes, it is.
show. But no, I love that. And the mall, the whole mall.
The mall. Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
And so where's the baby now? And does the baby still want to be referred to as, I forget what it was, something overlord or whatever it was. I'm like, oh my gosh, because it's been, what's it been, 10 years? So
yeah, how about that?
yeah, so then you got a 10-year-old child, and I mean, it could be, you could write it campy and fun and do whatever. Or like I said, you could weave it in. You could have the doctor show back up, or you can have have him show up on one of these other shows we're talking about. But I'm just like, oh my gosh. I thought of that and I went, that's what we really need. This would be so much fun.
The girl in the fireplace episode.
Yes.
That would be cool too, because that was really beautiful, and it was set in that like Victorian times.
Yes.
And everything. That would be really cool. Like, I don't think it would be enough for a full series, but
Right.
it'd be really cool, like a throwback or mini series or movie or something like that. It would be awesome. One of the companions that we haven't talked about yet is Bill. Now,
Yep.
you haven't. Are you with Bill yet?
Yes. Well, not on my return back, but I have seen Bill, so I know Bill. It took me a moment to, when you said Bill, I'm like, who? I was thinking of one of the guy, one of the original companions, the male there. I don't know why I was thinking of him, but I'm like, what? How would that work?
So,
they were school teachers. What are we doing? And then you're like, oh, I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
So Bill's storyline, I don't think after Clara left, I don't think people who loved Clara didn't like the show.
Right.
Or for a little bit, and then they come up with Bill, and she didn't capture the audience quite as well as some of the other companions have in the past. I really liked Bill because I felt like she played off Peter's doctor at this point very well.
Right.
He's a professor. He is done traveling. Like after Clara, the whole Clara thing, he's just like, I'm done.
Right.
And he's forced back into it because of what happens to her. And because she's a student. And Bill's character is a lesbian. She falls not in love, I wouldn't say at the beginning, because she doesn't really know the woman. She has this like connection with a woman, and this woman becomes liquid. I don't know how else to explain it. You'd have to watch the episode, but she becomes like a liquid form traveling through the universe and stuff. And Bill at the end of her run leaves to go with her. I don't know how this would work as a show, but I think it's such a cool concept that they travel through time and space and all of the stuff in this form of liquid, and they can show up wherever they want and everything. I think that's really cool because they exist. They just exist.
Right.
It's very much like a library.
I've not got to her end, so I'm not, I don't know all that.
It's a little I'm not gonna lie. Even for Doctor Who, it's very much like, really? That's what you're gonna what? And that's saying a lot. Saying a lot. Because there are some Doctor Who episodes that make you go, really? That's what you're okay. Dinosaurs on the ship. That dinosaurs in space. I just gotta put that one out there. Episode where you're like,
you kind of had me at dinosaurs in space, though. I kind of like it. So
it's not a bad episode. It's not a good.
Better than T-Rex in London. I don't know.
God. There's an episode with on a pirate ship.
Yes.
Where the sea takes the pirates who are like, they get a paper cut and the sea takes them.
Right.
And it's actually like a spaceship and it's a sick bay, and she's trying to save them, and all of that. That episode would make a really cool movie.
I agree with that.
Like,
That is a wild, crazy episode because you're like, what is going on? Which I love. I love it when an episode makes me really question. I'm like, is this absolutely crazy, or is this going to pay off somewhere? Because I'm watching, I'm in, but God, I don't know. And you're like, oh, okay. But yes,
that episode was like, it was heartfelt. It
yeah,
was a weird episode. You didn't realize it was going to be heartfelt until like
you're right. Right, you're right.
But just the whole idea that this sick bay, you could play that off throughout history in so many ways. These people just go missing,
right?
Because the sick bay takes them,
right?
And of course the pirates think it's the sea taking them, but it's actually an alien sick bay. So you could play it off. This could be a series about like the Bermuda Triangle being the sick bay. So if somebody goes through this area and they have a paper cut, or they have anything that is harming them in any way, that they get taken up to get put into stasis so that they can heal, and then they're stuck in stasis because you can't put them back.
Right.
So they're just stuck there. And that could be a very, very interesting concept for a movie.
Well, and if you did it as a movie, have something happen to where they all wake up.
Right. Well, because they do, like in the show.
Right.
So they get there, and there's the little boy and the dad, and she won't let them. She won't let anybody touch her patients.
Right.
And he has to convince her that he doesn't want to harm.
That's right.
He wants to protect him too. And I think it's beautiful and unusual enough that it would be a really cool miniseries. I think it would be a really cool miniseries.
I was just thinking is if something failed and everybody woke up, so you've got people from all these different times.
Yep.
You'd be like, what in the world? How do you get, like all that? That would be an interesting thing. So, yeah. All right. Well, that sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. All right. Well, that's all I've got. Do you got anything else for us?
Sure. Well, we talked about like Torchwood a little bit. We have Jack at the end of Torchwood. Jack gets his immortality restored. So you can always follow Jack Harkness, but Rex also gets immortality.
Right.
He takes basically Jack Harkness's blood and he infuses it with his own, and then he gets shot.
Right.
But he heals like Jack does.
Right.
So
as long as his face doesn't get stretched like Jack's.
But the thing is like, I kind of don't know how Rex's mind would grasp the mortality like Jack does.
Right.
So I think that could be really cool. But my favorite one, what's your favorite one of the ones we've talked about? Which one would you really want them to do?
Oh my gosh. Man, because they're all good. I can make an argument for any of them there. Oh my gosh. Well, let's go Victorian. Let's do this one. That's what I want.
I knew you were going to pick that one.
Even though I want them all, and I really like Ace, especially how we came up with Ace with the kids. I'm so into that.
Yeah, no, I think that would be awesome. I love the Victorian one too. I'm going to. I love the Maisie Williams one as well, but I think the one that I would really like to get made is one that I just feel like would redeem two characters so much, and that's the Martha and Mickey.
Yep. Martha and Mickey.
The Martha
Mickey there with her,
one
but
would be awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that it could pull in some really cool things, but also have like a very human path in it.
Right.
But no, I think all of them would be awesome. I would be happy with any of them. I do love our Sarah Jane and Ace mashup.
I do too. That's a pretty amazing one.
Sky. So imagine this. So Sarah Jane's daughter's name is Sky. So Ace gives Sky her jacket.
Oh, nice. Yes.
So then you have the jacket, but it's on the little girl.
Yeah. I like that.
Very cool.
Passing it over and then telling her she's going to teach her how to make explosives.
I know.
I'm like, let me teach you how to make explosives. And then you could cut away for the end of that episode. You'd be like, what did they make her
make? It's beautiful though. No, I think that's awesome. That would be cool.
For those that don't know, Ace was notorious for blowing things up on her adventures with Professor. So
she was just trying things out.
You know what? I love that character. Of all, other than Sarah Jane, she's my favorite classic companion. Just because she was spunky, she was young, she was, it was kind of this whole.
As long as I wanted her to, but
no, I agree.
To be fair, I'm gonna say this. Out of the older doctors, like the classic doctors, the companions did not last like they do now. Mm-hmm. They didn't last like 2, 3, 4 seasons. They just didn't.
No, you're right.
They lasted like a season.
Sarah Jane lasted quite a while.
Sarah Jane was the exception.
Yep, she was. But the rest of them were gone pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I like it.
There is a video out there. I'm going to post this later. It's a GeekyKOOL. There's a new box set coming out for Doctor Who with what run was it? With McCoy. McCoy is the Doctor. Okay. And it's what's her name? The Exercise Girl. I
can't remember her name.
Yeah. So, but they've got a video. Basically, she's made this empire selling carrot juice, and she's doing like this reality show where people come in, and then they keep flashing back to these characters were with her. I mean, a lot of them were opponents to her and the Doctor back in the day, and they keep showing. And then he shows up at the end, and I mean, it's a cool video. I'm going to post that later for any Doctor Who fans because that's a lot of fun. But I'm like, I don't buy box sets because I just rather watch them digitally now, but I'd be tempted just because that's so cool. So
I still buy box sets. I have my DVD collection. It's a thing. It's a thing.
Nothing wrong with that.
Afford it very often, but
I get that. Well, and sometimes you can find them on a good sale. I'd rather just have them digitally now because I collect too much stuff anyway. So.
I feel that.
So and now that I'm homeless at the moment,
you're not homeless for long.
So I'm living in an apartment, so I'm not really homeless, but so I'm without a house at the moment. So
have you got your house sold?
Well, it's in process. So closing date is in February. So we had one contract fall through, and now we've got another one, and so it's supposed to be February. So I'm hopeful everything will go smooth and we'll get it sold to sounds like somebody who's really excited to have it. So
it's a really good house.
Yeah, I mean, you guys pretty much everything on the inside is brand freaking new.
After the tree incident, you guys did a good job. So, and then hopefully you guys can find a new place and get out of the apartment.
Yeah, exactly. Get back to having an office so we can record these and
a garage. Let's face it, that's what you really want.
Well, that's part of it because baby's out in the weather. My 2009 Ford Mustang GT baby is being neglected because she's out in the weather. She's not supposed to be. So
baby in the weather.
Exactly. This tree did. So, but that would be helpful. Plus, and I hate scraping in the morning. I want a garage so I can just pull out, not have to scrape my car.
Professor, I've been poor my whole life. I've never had a garage.
Well, you know, I didn't have one until I bought a house, and I don't know. It
On
it
my
came
house
with it.
garage.
Yeah.
Probably
I-
Apple, but wish me luck, guys. If you guys are watching, I still haven't heard about my thing. So.
I'm hoping you're going to hear something soon. Sometimes they tell you they're gonna let you know by the end of the week, and then other things come up, and they're still trying to make the fact that they haven't called you and told you no is a good thing.
I got a text from the guy I interviewed with, and he said, "Don't lose heart. We just get really busy.
Yeah,
and you should know hopefully by Tuesday. So if I don't hear from him tomorrow, then I will text again and find out. But it would really be nice to not be in retail anymore.
yeah,
I've been
really nice.
6 years, so
I only did it 6 months and found out I can't sell shoes to women. So retail's probably not the career choice for me.
I literally I can sell anything to anyone, and that's not I mean bragging. I have sold everything from shoes to toy cars to eucalyptus oil.
Yeah. See, I start thinking about this person's probably not in a good economic place. I really don't want to, I start worrying about where people are at, and
I figure if they come into my store.
I understand that, and that's how typical salesmen. Like I said, I failed at selling women shoes. That's like failing at selling me comic books. That's a huge failure. It's a flop. But
you realize, Professor, that not all women are like that.
I know. I realize not all women, but the fact that women that come into the shoe store and sit down, they want to buy shoes. Right. Right. I'd always get these little old ladies that were on a fixed income and spend an hour and a half selling them a $30 pair of shoes. So
what? When you have people come in and you work as a manager at a shoe store and you have like people come in and they're like, I want those shoes. And you're like, those are $380 Uggs. And they're like, oh, well, I want 2 of them. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, Anyway, my experience wasn't a bad job. It just wasn't the job for me. And when we get to the point where we're looking for sales for GeekyKOOL, I know who I'm calling because she can sell anything. So not me, because I'm not a salesman, apparently.
We need to get some products. Actually, that is one thing I really want to do. And I hope, like, if I get this new job, I won't be as tired when I do get off work. I know that sounds physically, my job is like killing me.
Right.
But if I do get this new job, hopefully it'll be mentally exhausting, but not physically exhausting.
But also rewarding, so that makes a difference.
I want to start doing some creating some products for GeekyKOOL.
That would be awesome.
So
products, there we go. And people can always advertise with us. We're happy if you got something you want to advertise. We'll throw an advertisement right up here in the middle of the show for you. I mean, we're happy to do that, but
speaking of advertisements, we always like to share the love with our friends, and I'm going to have to get off here because I was going to have a short show, and then Doctor Who.
Yeah, I know. Sorry,
Professor. I see. So, but before we leave, we always like to throw some love toward our friends who are actually on the internet who do the same kind of things as us, and we're just geeky people sharing a geeky world, so we're going to just share some love. So if you guys are on the internet and you want something else to do, something else to watch, head on over to the Nerd Informants on YouTube and on Facebook. That's Tim and Josh. They are awesome, and they have all kinds of geeky news, and they do a podcast every week, and I think they're a little behind on us. I think we have a couple more episodes.
Well, they took some time off, too, so they did seasons. Well,
seasons. Professor, should we do seasons?
I don't know.
Be on. I think we're like on season 3 already.
I think so. I think we must be season 3.
But yeah, head on over and give them some love. Remember, on YouTube, if you guys are watching us on YouTube or watching them on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. That helps us out a lot. And on Facebook, make sure you give the page a like. That lets them know that you see them and enjoy what they're doing. Also, over on YouTube and Facebook, we have Gary and Keith over at Pop Culture Minefield. Now, they are not kid friendly all the time.
they're all the time not kid friendly.
Gary's adult language, and Keith laughs at it.
He does.
But what they do have is amazing insights, scoops that we can't get. I'm so jealous of their scoops. I'm not even gonna lie. And they are getting some notoriety for that. So
They are.
Give them some love, hit that subscribe button and that like on Facebook, and be sure to let them know that GeekyKOOL sent you, okay? And then we have the Scallywag himself.
Arg.
Scallywag Productions on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. He's everywhere.
He's in my studio right now.
He's everywhere.
He's got 5 shows a week over on Scallywag Productions on YouTube. He has let's see, Mindless Dribble on Mondays. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, he has a co-host.
That's the one.
For a series of enigmatic events. On Wednesdays, he does The Best That Never Was, which is where he talks about movies or TV shows that never got made or made it to pilots or scripts that never got made that he would think would be awesome. And on Fridays, he does Frivolous Facts, which is just a bunch of useless information because that's my boyfriend. He's full of useless but go show him some love. Hit that subscribe button and the like on Facebook, and on Instagram he shares a collectible of the day of all of the toys that we have around the house. So, and then there's us.
We're here.
We have our own website. It's called GeekyKOOL.com. Cool with K.
That's right, because that's a cool way to spell it.
I didn't spell it. He did. But it is a cool way to spell it. And you'll find all kinds of articles. As Shpoo says, the one-stop shop for all things nerdy, because we have all kinds of articles from the two of us write, but we also have a lot of other writers who contribute to the site.
Yep.
And we have the live video. We're on Facebook and YouTube with this. And yeah, go show us some likes and love and subscribe, all that stuff.
Please check us out because we would appreciate that.
Yeah, and Professor's going to be posting that video today.
I am. I'm going to go post that. Also, we'll have this posted up there for those that are looking for it. And there's some other stuff coming out. We did have some news that got posted a little earlier from Brian. So
I saw that.
Yeah, I know. It's like once every 2 months posting. So, which we appreciate, Brian. If you're watching, thank you. I do appreciate it. I'm not complaining. I appreciate anything anybody can do to help us out. So,
Professor is a great editor. If you guys want to write, even if it's just once every couple months or once every year, if you want to write something for GeekyKOOL, let us know, and we'll get you guys set up to where you can do that. So.
And if you know anybody that's looking for an internship, which basically is the right cost for us, we are happy to help interns with writing, with doing videos. We can also get you, if you want to intern to take care of all of our social media, we are happy to help you out with any of those sort of things. So if you're needing school credit, give us a holler. We'll be glad to have an intern, and it'd be fun to have an intern. There we go.
It would be fun. I love to teach, so it's all.
I do too. We've missed our callings in life there. So
seriously, yes, I think so. Well, guys, I'm gonna get off here and then go to bed because I have to be up really early in the morning, and then we're heading to St. Louis. Have a good trip to St. Louis. That's why we're not on Tuesday this week, because my beautiful co-host had to be gone. So yep. So I will be traveling to St. Louis. We're just going to go hang out with some people and just take a little mini break because I need it. There's nothing wrong with having a break. Have a safe trip. Stay safe. Don't get the COVID. It sucks. I've had it. So I wear my mask. I keep away from people as much as possible. Working retail is very difficult. It is. I've been tested 3 times for COVID and been negative every time. So good luck keeping me safe. I just want to keep safe. But yeah, we're just going to stay with some friends. So we're not going to be out in the public as much. That's good. Testing for stuff like that is the one time that being negative is positive. It's true. All right. You guys have a great night. Stay geeky out there, and we'll talk to you guys later.